I'm Matt Westmoreland. I'm a 2010 core member and history teacher at Carver Early College High School in Southeast Atlanta. I grew up in Atlanta. I graduated from Grady High School back in 2006. And one of my most vivid memories of Grady is the teacher who was right next door to my AP Senior English class. I'd walk into class every day and see 15 students, all but one of them white. And next door was a class twice that size and with the opposite racial composition. And the differences between those rooms really struck me. The teacher next door was a TFA core member, and she also was one of our mock trial coaches. And one night at practice, she and I started having a conversation about how she had come to Grady. It was the first time I'd ever heard of Teach for America, but it came at a time that I was becoming increasingly passionate about urban education and about the achievement gap I saw between our two classrooms within my school and all across Atlanta. And I thought that Teach for America was a way that I could come back to my hometown and try to close that gap and make a difference. So my skin color is the first thing that, anyone's skin color is the first thing that they're going to notice before how old you are, what your socioeconomic background is, where you went to college. It's there, and there's nothing that you can do to hide it or change it. And so I think it's the first thing that we notice. And it was definitely the first thing that my kids noticed when I walked into my classroom last August and saw 35 kids and all of them were black, and I was the only white person in the room. We were able, from a very early time, to talk comfortably about how we were different races, about how my experience growing up in Atlanta was different than theirs. We grew up on different sides of town. We had different experiences. We went to schools with different student populations of different diversities and backgrounds. But I think the fact that we were just able to jump in and talk about our races openly made it a lot more comfortable. And I think it got us past the divide that a lot of people feel and the discomfort that a lot of people feel when they talk about race early on in our relationship. I think it is absolutely true that a core member who shares a race or a socioeconomic background, or when you share similarities with your students, I think it makes it a whole lot easier to connect with them and to invest them in what it is that you're trying to do for them. I think that when you add a race that you might share or a socioeconomic background that you might share, that your student looks at you and sees a college-educated, successful black man or woman who may have come from the same kind of background that they do, which shows them that that's possible and that they can achieve that if they're willing to work with you and to work as hard as you worked. And I see it every day, how the students I teach, I think they look up to a lot of their teachers, but I think they particularly look up to teachers who share a similar background as them. I think that's really important.
My name is Gabriel Zaragoza, or as a lot of my friends call me, Gabe. I am a 2010 core member. I teach third grade in Clayton County, and I teach bilingual education. I graduated from the University of Georgia, and am also a product of Clayton County and of Atlanta. With me, when I was going to my school, I was very excited. I found I was doing bilingual education. I was going to be able to teach in English and in Spanish, which was great. I wanted to be able to use my skills. And on top of that, I was going to Forest Park, and the area where my high school is, or the city rather. And I wouldn't be teaching my high school, but I'd be teaching elementary school, bilingual education. And this got me even more excited. I knew I was going to be working with not just Hispanic kids, but also black kids and maybe a few other minorities. And I wanted to be that role model because I knew from a very young age, I never saw any teachers who came from where I came from. I always had black teachers or white teachers, and they were great. They got me to where I am, but I know when I went to college, some of the professors I really connected to were maybe my Spanish professors, where they were from Latin America, where they were from Mexico, and I had that connection with. And I know as kids definitely see that. I definitely have a great example from the first week I was at school. I had one of my classes, we were doing math, just going over multiplication tables, and I was going around helping some of the kids, and then Isidro calls me over, and he's like, Maestro, ven acá por favor. Teacher, come over here please. Tengo una pregunta. Tú pareces a mí. Tienes mi color. ¿Eres mexicano? And that's roughly translated. He's saying, teacher, you look similar to me. You have my same color. are you Mexican? And at this school, I was thinking, well, at this school, it's a bilingual school. There are a lot of Latin American teachers there from all over the continent. But then again, I noticed I was the only Mexican teacher, the only teacher that did come from Georgia. And then I was like, well, maybe he didn't have a connection with any of the other teachers. But because I look like him, and because I speak like him, and I understand his vernacular, he sees that connection. And I knew from that day that he was always going to remember that, because he finally saw a role model, which this community really lacked.